Dragon Ball Super BROLY. Have you seen it? What do you think? I've watched the series of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z more than a few times from start to finish, and whenever I'm feeling sad, watching a scene of these characters overcome impossible odds inspires me to try harder at life. It might sound dumb to say, but I've learned a lot from shonen anime like DBZ. The idea that you can always train to get stronger and that you can overcome powerful villains if you never give up inspires me to train harder as an artist. DBZ is especially important to me because I used to watch it with my best friends and older brother on Toonami during the Cell Saga. We'd sometimes recreate battles and wrestle afterwards. It was a time when countless hours were dedicated to drawing Dragon Ball characters and sharing the drawings with friends, at a time when Dragon Ball action figures could mix with X-Men and Ninja Turtles in my own alternate action figure cartoon series. So, I'm a big fan of DBZ, but I haven't really watched that much of Dragon Ball Super. I saw the first two Super movies, but I've only seen a couple clips from the series itself, and Super didn't really capture my attention, to be honest. I thought Battle of Gods and Resurrection F were pretty entertaining films. They had hit or miss humor, but had some pretty cool fight scenes. That helped scratch the Dragon Ball itch, though I wouldn't say I liked them nearly as much as classic DBZ movies like Fusion Reborn, The History of Trunks, or Lord Slug. Again, aside from the first two Dragon Ball Super movies, I really don't know a ton about the Super universe. So I went into this Dragon Ball Super BROLY movie not entirely sure what to expect, other than intense, over-the-top fight scenes and colorful explosions of energy beams. Well, this movie is visually explosive. It looks like a manga come to life. The character designs have never looked this elastic and expressive. The line art fluctuates from a fine line to an inky and sketchy strokes depending on the movement. Different sections of the movie look very distinct, probably in part due to the fact that different supervising animators were handling different sequences. The character acting is really well executed. Not just the voice acting, which was brilliant, but the way they squash and stretch and emote with each word spoken gave more life to these characters. I really liked the dialogue scenes, not just because we got to learn more about the history of the Saiyans, but because these characters were probably the most real they've ever felt in a Dragon Ball movie. I was laughing hard with the audience on more than one occasion. Of course, Goku has his idiot savant-like humor, but Frieza is hilarious in this film. He's almost the comedic relief character. He could have been animated as a talking head, but he's got this sass to him that flows through his face and body as he speaks. Some segments of fight scenes looked like it included real-life footage of explosions or smoke. It was kind of weird, but it didn't detract from the film. There were some CGI elements that looked great, and some that weren't so great. Trying to blend 3D elements with the 2D aesthetic is always a challenge, but I think anime in general is getting better at finding a balance. For many of the fight scenes, it looked like 2D work composited over 3D models, and this looked great because the motions weren't robotic. They weren't floaty like 3D sometimes is if it's done poorly. They had the ability to rotate the camera all around thanks to the 3D aspects. Like in 2D animation, parts sped up or slowed down depending on the animation and the spacing, and it looked like the frame rate adjusted to emphasize these motions in order to give impact. From a visual perspective, some of my favorite moments were when the film shifted into a first-person perspective, and we could see the fight from Broly's eyes. Not only did this look amazing on the big screen, but it helped us empathize with Broly as a character because now we're in Broly's shoes defending ourselves against Goku. This was the first time in Dragon Ball where Goku almost felt like an enemy due to the framing alone. There's parts where characters fly through dozens of mountains and the backgrounds of the exploding mountains are fully animated in 2D, which has this super fluid, insane look to it. It's almost overwhelming. Some of the scenes, it feels like just images are being pumped into your brain at a relentless rate. So I did daydream a couple moments during the long fight scenes, only because there's so much visual information and action happening on the screen. I tend to get overwhelmed when this happens in movies. But needless to say, this film was a visual feast, exploding with animation insanity. I'd love to know how many drawings were made for this movie. When Broly powers up, Gogeta and Broly blast through the surface of the earth and fight in lava, and actually end up destroying the boundaries of the universe and enter an alternate dimension with trippy psychedelic colors flying everywhere. This is when the use of CGI becomes very noticeable in a distracting way, as the characters look like shiny video game models. It looks like something out of Dragon Ball Xenoverse, actually, which looks fine enough on its own, but within the context of this film, it's kind of jarring after seeing the stunning 2D animation sequences. Part of the reason this was done probably was to use very complex camera movements with fully rotating backgrounds, which would be impractical with purely 2D animation. Luckily, this doesn't last too long, since it doesn't really detract from the overall experience. A strange coincidence about this psychedelic dimension we're transported to is it looks a lot like the trippy multiverse sections from Into the Spider-Verse. At least that's what I immediately thought when I first saw it. In the past movies, Broly would shoot out these strange colors when he powered up to suggest he was bending the universe with his immense power. So it was cool to see him actually destroy the boundaries of the universe when he went full power in this film. One little nitpick I have with this film is the handheld camera effect. When it's used subtly, it looks great, and it makes it feel like we're really on scene with the characters. But sometimes the wagging camera goes too far in the fight scenes. I know it adds intensity to the fight to have the camera zip all around. At times it was disorienting, and it didn't always enhance the amazing choreography of the fight scenes. And the fight scenes are some of the best ever animated in Dragon Ball Z. And I can't wait to rewatch this movie. But how's the story? In the next video I'll talk about that and give a full review. So let me know what you thought of this movie, and if you plan on seeing it.